Level up your hunting game and join the cause. Help preserve small-town Texas hunting culture and become a more successful hunter by learning the best ways to squeeze the most out of your budget and precious time out in the field. Welcome to the Feed Bandit Podcast. Here are your resident bandits, Richard Kinchlow and Jimmy Byrne.
Well, good evening, everybody. Corn Bandit back at you with another little Feed Bandit podcast. It is Texas turkey time in Texas. Turkey time in Texas. There you go. God, I had that all spelled out and I fumbled it as usual. But yes, indeed, it is turkey time in Texas. Thank goodness. As we all know, this is the last official game species in the great state of Texas until dove season starts many months away. But hey, who's counting? But, the great thing is when turkey season ends, now we get into the heat of the summer and we worry about those protein feeders and we look at the antlers growing. They're already starting to grow at Rancho Bandito, and we sit there and we pray for rain. We pray for sunflowers. So, anyways, turkey season is here. It's a heck of a lot of fun and a lot of birds seeming to be around the state. That big freeze that we had back in February, which seems like it was just last week, from what I've heard, didn't really seem to impact a lot of the turkey population. I think that, a lot of folks said that their fat, or some of the experts that is, said a lot of their fat reserves would be worn down and you could see some mortality because of that. It's a big word for me. But that did not happen. Well, at least not that I've heard. So that's fantastic. A lot of turkeys are AKA corn rats, right? They can be a real pain in the butt on some places, but in others they don't have as many and they're a sight for sore eyes. But the wild turkey is a true success story. Was it Benjamin Franklin wanted to make them the national bird as opposed to the eagle because they're smart and they taste good and all that kind of stuff. Eagle tastes pretty good too, I got to admit, especially eagle with a side of halibut. It's phenomenal. But anyway, that's we can talk about that later. Obviously, I'm joking. Federal Game Board who's listening to this never tasted eagle. I've seen a couple really, really cute, fun. Just a little joke there for you. But so back to talking turkeys. What we're gonna do on these next couple of little shows is we're gonna concentrate just on a couple of different tips per show. And again, we're gonna call it the turkey time in Texas. And kind of the point of this is, as you're heading out to your lease, your farm, your ranch, whatever you want to call it, take some of this advice and think about it. Again, we always talk about the weekend warriors. That's what we are, right? And we just have a finite amount of time. So you want to make the absolute best use of your time when you're out there on your land. So, hopefully everybody's been doing some scouting, seeing where the birds are, when they fly down from the roost, where they fly up, so on and so forth. We're going to talk about two topics tonight. In somewhat detail, but I think it's important, and since it's still extremely early season, it's the second weekend really of the northern season here in Texas. I think the southern season's been going on for about 2 or 3 weeks now. A little bit different conditions. Birds are doing X, Y, and Z. So we'll talk about that. So. First topic we'll talk about tonight are jakes. And as we all know, jakes are the juvenile wild turkeys. They're first year birds. Okay. How do you tell a jake from a big mature gobbler? Well, from my personal experience, the jakes, when you look at their head, they're a heck of a lot redder. In fact, you're going to see a lot more red on a jake's head, especially this time of year when they're all blown up in the full-blown turkey rut, than you will on a big mature tom. And a big gobbler, their heads are going to be more of a white and blue. I've even seen some toms where their head is snow white, and you can hardly see any blue or red on it. So that's an old bird if you can ever find one of those, at least in my experience. Also, the other telltale sign is just the beard on the jake is significantly shorter. It kind of sticks out like a little tuft as opposed to hanging. So It's kind of like guys, fellas, we can tell. Anyway, I digress. But that is kind of how you identify jakes. Now, here's a little trivia for you, something that I guess I probably heard, but I'd forgotten. What is a juvenile hen turkey called? It's called a Jenny. And of course, we all know the famous, fabulous movie Forrest Gump. And of course, Forrest is crushed there because he was a Jake at one time, is Jenny. Yeah, and while we're on the topic of that, something that's always bothered me with that particular film, as one of my sophisticated buddies would say, like, it's a movie, dude. It's not a film. Film is something you put in a darn camera. But yeah, what's really killed me about that is, finally, after all these years, Forrest finally gets his Jenny, right? He gets Jenny, okay? And we all know what happens. Forrest, shows up at Jenny's apartment. She's like, Forrest here, or meet your son, Forrest Jr. And, so that's that night there in Alabama in the summer when it was raining and probably 10,000 degrees outside, no central heating and air. They did the thing, and then 9 months later, they got little Forrest Jr., right? Well, the next part in the movie, you find out that Jenny's got this new virus nobody knows anything about. Of course, everybody knows that's the HIV. So, instead of being like, hey, Forrest, I'm sick, instead of being, hey, Forrest, I'm sick, it might be, hey, Forrest, I'm sick and dying, and you probably need to go get tested too. Think about that. That's why there is no Forrest Gump 2. Forrest died. He had the HIV. I don't know. Again, just the name Jenny kind of sets me off. It's frustrating because Forrest, he's a damn good guy, he's an American hero. He's a storied football player in Alabama. He's all the above, and Jenny, who he's been chasing the whole life, ultimately serves him up a dish of cold death. Anyway, that's my little thing. Again, I digress. So let's talk about the Jakes, okay, and the young turkey, and kind of the pros and cons. First of all, if you're, what's a trophy turkey? Okay, we'll talk about that first. Well, my opinion, any turkey is a trophy turkey, especially with a shotgun, all right? Because you're effectively out there playing cat and mouse with an animal that spends its entire turkey life surviving, okay? And they got great eyesight, great hearing. They can see in color. They can spot you a mile away. So if you're able to bag a gobbler, by mimicking a hen and calling that bird in, but that's a trophy right there. And I don't care how big his spurs are. I don't care how long his beard is, how white or blue his head is. That is a trophy. That being said, for the non-trophy hunters, Jakes eat the same thing. Okay, sure, Jakes don't have all the color. They're a little bit lighter. Their beards are shorter. Their spurs aren't as big. But they eat the same, right? So it's like, you can't eat antlers. So, should you shoot a Jake? Should you shoot a Jake? Well, absolutely. If you're in a scenario where, it's the last day of the hunt and you've got a nice, population of wild turkeys on your place, go ahead, take a Jake, take something home. It's not going to hurt anything. Now, when should you consider not shooting a Jake? Okay, well, if you're in a scenario where, you've typically not had a lot of turkeys, or, it's been a really bad year and your population was already kind of lousy, then, maybe don't shoot a Jake. Get out there, get you some experience, but let that Jake turn into a first-year gobbler, and we'll see what happens, and pray for rain, and hopefully the hens have good clutches of eggs, and life is and life is good. I think one of the pros to Jakes are that they are that first bird that typically that first birds, and I say birds because typically you won't see one Jake by himself. You'll see 4 or 5 of them coming in there, coming into your decoy, and they're gobbling in unison and they're running. I mean, they're a lot of fun. In fact, if you go to the feedbandit.com YouTube page, which I'll have my co-host put the link in there, you can actually see a video of my brother-in-law and I calling in. I think I had about 4 Jakes. And great deal. We're back there in the bush. Okay, they're looking into the sun. It's just a perfect setup. These jakes come hauling butt, and in fact, it was just crazy. And you're kind of fixated on the birds and not realizing, oh man, I need to pull the trigger here. Yeah, so jakes can be a lot of fun. Jakes are great for kids too. Okay. I mean, sure, you want to get little Sally or little Billy, a big old trophy gobbler, but hey, you know what? Again, any turkey with a shotgun is a huge enough trophy for me. I will, and especially for kids. This past weekend I had, my daughter at Rancho Bandito, and, 3 hours in this little blind, waiting on the, looking at trail cameras, trying to figure out where these birds are kind of congregating. They seem to be all over the place. And I attribute that to the hens being all over the place. So the gobblers are following. And, 3.5 hours come in. We've got, actually, it was probably a young gobbler. His beard was starting to kind of hang, I guess you could say. Unfortunately didn't get it done, but hopefully we'll be rewriting that story a little bit later. But yeah, jakes are great for the kids. One problem you do have with jakes, okay, is that jakes can actually be pretty aggressive. And I think there was an article or a show or something I watched last year during the 2020 turkey season, my best turkey season ever, by the way, they were saying that the jakes can almost, when they get really into the turkey rut, kind of like deer, right? They beat the snot out of each other. Jakes can do the same thing too. So we got another segment coming up here talking about decoys. We'll talk about should you or should you not, put out a jake decoy. So I'll also make the suggestion, and I actually don't even know if you can. Be interested to hear from somebody, but the eastern wild turkey population in the state of Texas has just not done very well. And hats off to, I think it's Stephen F. Austin University and, the National Wild Turkey Federation, and then everybody who's trying to help, trying to reintroduce, not reintroduce, but bolster the population of the wild turkey, eastern wild turkey in East Texas. It's very difficult, God knows they got plenty of habitat. I think they're just not taken. So it's something that I kind of follow and I'm kind of passionate about. But in that particular scenario, there's a lot of public land and private land where I think you can hunt eastern turkeys in Texas. If it was me, I would probably not pull the trigger on an eastern jake in the state of Texas. I would probably wait for a gobbler to show up and kind of go with the whole deer theory, right? You want to take those older bucks, and it kind of applies to turkeys as well, I think. So that's kind of my thoughts in general about jakes. Again, sure, for entertainment value, they're phenomenal. They eat the same, right? Great for kids. Again, if you're if you're at your land, your property, whatever, doesn't have a booming turkey population, yeah, you think twice. Think twice about pulling the trigger. And let that population try to rebound. But that is my thoughts there about the jake decoys, and of course the whole saga with Forrest Gump and Jenny. Very, very, very sad and frustrating. But that is women, folks. They can really give you all kinds of stuff. Anyway, including a wonderful life and beautiful children. So, Forrest Gump's it's kind of an outlier. Statistical word there for you. Let's talk about decoys. Decoys are extremely important. I have been using decoys ever since I started turkey hunting. And, back in the day, they just had hen decoys. Okay. So it's a hen and, it's just a hen, right? Then they started coming out with jake decoys. Okay. Then they kind of came out with the first gobbler decoys. I mean, now they've got everything. They've got, the party pack with, it's almost like duck decoys. So I use decoys religiously. I believe in them. They work. I think they're phenomenal. Just like predator hunting, I always want to have something out there that gets the attention of the species that I am hunting. I'd probably use a deer decoy actually if it weren't so big and I wasn't so lazy. That being said, I sometimes when I'm running and gunning for turkeys, so that is I park the vehicle and I make a call and I'm listening for gobblers, right? If I'm running and gunning through the bush looking for birds, I may not bring a decoy with me because if you're setting up a decoy and backing up, you could be in jeopardy of potentially of that bird seeing you set up that decoy. So, but let's talk a little bit about decoys and the significance of them and kind of what role they play and really the hunting scenario. First and foremost, this early in the season, any tenure turkey hunting will tell you it is, especially with a good hen population, it is tough to break a tom or toms plurals away from the hens. Okay. And truthfully, I don't think you have much of a chance in hell if you don't have a decoy. So if you're in an area and you've got hens that are coming in or they're working in there, maybe they heard you calling and you got gobblers in tow, having a decoy out there is at least going to give you a fighting chance. And have I pulled away hens from, have I pulled away gobblers using a decoy? Absolutely. And have they been henned up? Absolutely. I'm not going to tell you it happens every time because it sure as hell doesn't, but it is possible. And so I highly recommend having at least a hen decoy with you. They're relatively inexpensive. They kind of fit in the back pouch of your turkey vest. So definitely going to recommend that one. As far as the position is concerned, man, this is key. This is absolutely key. You want to put that hen decoy in a position that's going to give you the most success. Okay. And obviously that's kind of stupid. It sounds like something a dad would say, right? But it's true. Okay. If you're setting up here, you want to make sure that you put that decoy where it's going to give you a great shot. Okay. Now remember, if you're right-handed, you don't want to put, if you're right-handed and you don't want to put that decoy all the way to your far right, because you're going to have to turn like this. And if you're fat like me, it's a real pain in the butt. If you're going to do anything, have it straight out in front of you to your left. Obviously, it's going to be the opposite if you're left-handed. Some people don't think about that though, and it can really bite you in the ass when you got a turkey that's walking up on you and he's a different angle and you got to move and shoot. You're screwed. He's going to see you and he's out of there. Also, you really want to put that turkey decoy in an area where it's going to be seen the most. Okay. For example, this past weekend, I'm in a pop-up blind that I set up near a feeder. And I've got the pop-up blind positioned back in the bush, okay, back underneath the cedar. It was great until the sun started to set, and then it got really hot, okay? It's like a microwave. Kind of miserable, but we got through it. But with that decoy, I put that decoy kind of out in the middle of the road and only about 20 yards from me. So it's this great shot from my daughter shooting that Stevens 410 with the tungsten turkey load, which is really exciting. When she shot her bird with it last time too. So, but what was great about that is that any gobbler that was coming, within 400 yards, could see that hen decoy, and so not only do they got my calling, but you've got that visual cue as well. And I definitely attribute that. The calling is great, and that's what's going to kind of bring them in. But having that visual thing really kind of potentially helps set the hook. Okay. Something else I recommend, a lot of these decoys, have I killed turkeys with just a decoy that just kind of stands there? Sure. Yeah. But what I like is a turkey decoy, that's got a threaded, screw thing going through the top of the decoy where you can put a butterfly nut on there and then you can tighten and loosen that butterfly nut. So, and I started doing that years ago, and I think it's a hell of a lot better. Why? Because my decoy actually looks like a real turkey and not some sort of decoy, right? Because that thing is going to bob and weave and move with the wind. And I've actually seen gobblers respond to that. They're coming in and then the wind kind of shifts and my decoy kind of turns around, and I think it really helps I think it really helps set the mood. So if you've got a decoy that's got some sort of nut or something on the top, change it for a wing nut. Okay, obviously carry extra with you because you're gonna lose them and you'll never find them out there. But that is something that I do, and I've used it with a lot of success. One thing I will mention is be careful with the Jake decoys. And we talked earlier about Jakes. One of the things that I mentioned is that, Jakes can be super aggressive to toms. And, you get a millennial tom over there, and he wants to talk, but he can't talk. He's trying to text. Well, the hen's older than him, and she doesn't have an iPhone, and he's too much of a pansy to come up and talk to him. And then the young Jakes wearing the game hats come up and they beat the snot out of him. I've never seen it happen, but allegedly it does happen. I've seen Jakes get aggressive. So you got to be careful when you put a Jake decoy out there. When's the best time to put a Jake decoy out there? Well, I think it kind of depends on the time of year, and I think it depends on the kind of bird too. I have had some success a little bit later in the season. Okay, so later in the season, the hens go to nest. They're not walking around looking for action, and so the gobblers are like, dude, this is ridiculous. I need some action. And so, when they do find a candidate, if you will, they kind of go all in. And of course, we've all seen the videos of these big toms beating up these Jakes. But again, I would caution you on using a Jake earlier in the season. Can you go wrong with a hen decoy? No, in my opinion, you really cannot. Again, that is my suggestion. So again, point of these topics were just to hit on some of the decoys, hit on some of the a couple of the real important topics. Hope you're listening to this maybe on the way to your place. I sure hope it helps you too. I mean, these are things that I've learned over the years, and they've helped me become definitely a better turkey hunter. Of course, I am nowhere near the turkey hunter that my co-host is, Mr. El Bendito himself, Jimmy. He is a turkey fanatic, and hopefully we'll get to hear from him here in not too long. So anyways, that is all I have for you all tonight. Thank you so much for listening to us. Again, sorry for the sporadicness of the podcast. It's been a crazy year in a good way though. So we're going to be doing more of these, like we say, and check in with us next week. We're going to have some more turkey tips as we continue the Talkin Texas Turkey two-step tantrum. I was trying to think of, anyway. And also I'd like you all to ponder that whole Forrest Gump thing. I mean, think about that. I mean, it's just, boy, he got dealt a bad hand of cards on that one. So anyways, that is all for me tonight. Support your local feed store. Take care.
Thanks for listening to the Feed Bandit Podcast. If you like what we discuss on the show, be sure to sign up to our email list to get even more killer hunting ideas, tips, tricks, and exclusive deals on innovative hunting gear and services delivered straight to your inbox. Sign up over at feedbandit.com or simply by texting the word bandit to 33777. See you on the next one, and remember, support your local feed store.